My name is Justin, and I build my own speakers. Today we're going to take a little stroll down memory lane and look at the very first subwoofer that I ever built, or at least the first one in kind of my modern era of speaker building. The last time that I assembled one of these, I was a kid, probably in college. The driver we're looking at here is a Dayton Audio Classic 12-inch subwoofer. This subwoofer is good for around 250 watts of total power handling. It is a 4-ohm driver. It was probably a $75 to $80 driver when I bought it. This build happened back in 2015, I think. That seems to be the camera stamp on all the pictures that I've taken. And you can see there a good look at the model number. So the model number is DSC 305-4. Still using this today. It is the main subwoofer in my home theater. I don't have any images of it, but I do have it hooked up to a plate amplifier from Dayton Audio, a 250 watt amplifier that pairs with it. Here you see a picture of it with me in all of its glory. You can kind of see that it's not a small driver at all. It's very, very beefy and solid driver. I do believe I have some videos that I'll show, kind of fast forward through most of them probably, and a few pictures of the build process. And one thing I want to point out before we dive into that is take a look at the tools that I'm using as I build this enclosure. I did not have good tools when I started doing this. I barely had tools when I started doing this. In this image, we're starting the build process. I've already taken my birch plywood from Home Depot or Lowe's and cut it into the pieces that I need. And I'm beginning to take pictures of the assembly process. And what I want to do real quick is point out the tools that I'm using. You can see in the upper right-hand corner, there is a router table with a router affixed to it. That router is also removable, and I do believe at the time I had a Jasper circle jig. So just to kind of run through this, I made the cuts with a circular saw and a Craig rip cut. So we're talking about $50 worth of investment in an inexpensive saw and a good Craig jig. We've got a router table that I didn't need for the process. It was a birthday present, and I have a router with a circle jig on it. It was not a high-end router by any stretch of the imagination, so the router and the circle jig might have been another $50, $60, $80. Next thing I want to point out to you is the orange Black & Decker 18-volt cordless drill. This is an old school drill. This is before we had drills made out of lithium ion. It was the only drill that I had when I made this, and so any screws I had to put into anything, I was using that drill. And I point that out just to kind of say, hey, you don't need some high-end drill in order to do this. And again, to kind of show you what I mean when I say I don't have high-end tools, take a look at my sawhorses. I had recently had a roof put on the house, and this is leftover OSB boards that were the underlayment beneath my shingles. And they were leftover pieces that I cut down and made some jinky little sawhorses out of with wood glue holding them together. So the point of this image really is that you don't have to have fantastic tools. You can see, errors and mistakes. You can see on the cut that there's some tear out. It wasn't perfect. Sandpaper can fix a lot of that. The other thing I want to point out in this image is the tubs kind of scattered around in the background. At the time, the home we lived in had a one-car garage that had been filled in, but when they filled it in, they didn't bother to put any air conditioning or anything in it, so it became storage. And I didn't have a good place to store my tools. You can see the doors going into that garage space in the image. So at the end of every day, I had to take all of my tools, put them all back in those tubs, and stack those tubs into a crowded storage room. And it was very frustrating and hard to get any work done. But I did get work done. You don't need a fancy garage. You don't need high-end tools. All you need is some basic things to kind of get you going. So don't think that you can't do this if you don't have the top-of-the-line tools or the table saw or anything like that. Here's an image of the saw setup that I used to make the cuts for this subwoofer enclosure. This is a very simple entry-level inexpensive Skill brand circular saw attached to a Craig rip cut. If you've never tried out the Craig rip cut, I think it's a must-have. My thought was when I bought this setup was that I needed a surefire way to make reasonably straight cuts. And at the time, I simply could not afford a table saw, and I saw this and I thought, hey, this is like a budget table saw. If you had this, you really don't need a table saw. Since then, Craig has come out with some more jigs that are kind of in the same vein that can do the exact same thing. So don't rush out and buy a table saw in order to build your first subwoofer box, especially when there's a few real simple, straightforward jigs out there that you can purchase and attach to a most basic, simple circular saw and get the job done. At this point in the build, I have my internal brace ready along with my double baffle for the subwoofer enclosure. I used my Jasper circle jig to cut these holes out with the router. You can also see a few smaller holes. I just took a hole saw and drilled those. Took a round over bit as well to round all those over. I used T-nuts to secure the woofer. That's an idea I got from the Car Audio Fabrication YouTube channel. The idea being that if I've got to take the woofer in and out, there'll be a metal T-nut to screw into as opposed to the wood itself, which over time, multiple removals will fall apart. You can see from all the sweat that it's blazing hot outside at this time, which is good for helping the glue set up and dry. Here I'm fitting the baffle onto the enclosure and kind of getting an idea of how it's going to look and where the port is going to go. Next up, we have just a few images of the assembly going together. Now I've got some fast-forwarded footage of the enclosure, just kind of doing a walking around, showing off all the seams and the joints and the port and the baffle and everything. I built this with nothing but clamps and wood glue. There were some screws where I screwed the baffle together, but other than that, there aren't any screws in the enclosure at all. I used Titebond 2 wood glue. On a warm day like this, it'll set up in 30 minutes. So you clamp it for 30 minutes, then unclamp it and move on. And that's really handy when you have a finite number of clamps. Now, the advantage to using screws, which I didn't want to use because I've got all exposed wood that I was just going to stain, the advantage to using screws is you can wood glue and screw it together, move to the next piece, wood glue and screw it together. This took a long time because I would clamp, let it sit for 30 minutes, unclamp, glue the next piece, and then clamp, and on and on and on. So it did take a little bit of time. If you're going to use clamp and glue construction, it's a good idea to have a whole lot of clamps. The old saying is the number of clamps you need for a project is always one more than you have. The next thing I'd like to show you is one of the most useful tools that you can use for building anything square, and that's a corner clamp. These were ordered off of Amazon. I don't remember when I got them or what brand they were. I know that Harbor Freight sells one that looks just like it. It might have been one of those things where before I discovered Harbor Freight, I accidentally bought Harbor Freight off Amazon and paid too much for it. These corner clamps are great for lining up your 90-degree angles and your corners and getting everything all set up. I've got 2 of them. They're like having an extra hand. I'd like to have some more of them. They're definitely on my wish list. They're not terribly expensive and they're very handy. And we're going to wrap up the video with a quick photo montage. As you can see, I ran out of clamps when I started my final clamp up and final glue up, and so I found some straps that I just strapped it all together. I finished it with Minwax Poly Shades. It's a stain and polyurethane in one. And I really like the way that turned out. I finished several speaker projects in that same material since then. The picture there is of the first coat. It looks better when you make multiple coats, 2, 3 coats. You can get a real dark caramel color. Finally, move this thing into the house and set it in its position. Here are some pictures of the amplifier. This is the Dayton Audio amplifier, 250 watt maximum output power. I've been enjoying this thing since 2015, still using it in my home theater. I've moved since then, and it's in the new house, and I've built a whole home theater set of speakers to go with it. So thanks for watching the video. Again, that was my very first attempt to build a home speaker of any type, and really the speaker that got me started in my current speaker building hobby. It's a real fun hobby. I hope that you see that you don't need a lot of complicated tools, and you can just get right started on a project like this, and I hope that you will take the time to try it yourself. Thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, ask them in the comment area.